everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm doing a solo episode. I had plans, they didn't fall through, we just never got around to recording, so we decided to delay it. And I've been thinking of doing a solo one for a while, so I thought I would. I was going to say luckily for you this will probably be a bit of a shorter one, because even though I can talk myself to sleep, and everyone to sleep, talking to you but to myself through a phone, I don't know if I could do it that long, but maybe it won't be that short. And also maybe not lucky for you, because everyone on my Instagram voted that they liked the longer episodes. So if you don't like the longer episodes and you prefer that I keep them short, make sure you go and follow the Instagram. It is at @theaveragefempod. And then when I ask questions, you can vote and get what you like out the podcast. I did also ask on the Instagram today for the solo episode if there are any questions you wanted answered, or if there was any unprofessional advice that I could give anyone. Didn't get any responses this time, which is fine. I mean, the Instagram only has like 80 followers, but I will probably be I wasn't planning on doing that anyway until if the podcast got bigger or anything, but I thought I would do it just for this time, just to see if there was anything, give me a little bit more content to talk about. But it's fine, I'm just going to talk at you anyway. But yeah, my point is, if you ever want to get more involved with the podcast, the email, theaveragefeministpodcast@gmail.com, or the Instagram is the way to go to contact me. You can also contact my personal Instagram, but to be honest, I'm more likely to accept your DM or talk to you or redirect you to the podcast or anything, if that makes sense. But I'm not going to ignore you if you message my personal one, which is @Libby_low. LIBBIE_LOW. I'm not going to be like, no, you have to message the podcast or I will refuse to talk to you. But either way, see, there I go. It's only been 2 minutes. It's already been 2 minutes, I meant to say. And I haven't even started talking about anything yet. So I didn't want to go heavy into, like, what we normally talk about, because I do prefer to do that with the guests and like to have someone to bounce off of and, you know, normal conversational things. So I thought today I would kind of maybe go through a couple of the episodes we've done already and give you some updates, things that have happened since, or conversations that I've had or anything. Give you a little bit of an update on that. Sorry, my voice sounds really raspy. I don't think I've really spoken to anyone today. I also thought I'd give you some recommendations of some things that I really like, that are very empowering to me, that maybe you might like to listen to as well, or watch or read. There's like a whole mix of everything. And on that note, if you have anything, I'll reiterate this at the end, but if you have anything that you want to say to me, you know, recommend to me, any music or a TV show or a book or a movie or anything, please do, because chances are I might get around to watching it. But if you don't recommend, then I probably never will. So I'm going to have a drink, then I will start, I guess. Oh, there you go. So, sorry for that really awkward pause. I feel like that would be less awkward if I was visually recording this as well, like on a camera, so you could have like a video and then you'd be able to see that I'm drinking, not just have the awkward pause. But anyway, I'll carry on. So, I don't know if I've got much to update on the episode so far, but I do have a fair update for the first episode that I did actually with Verity, when we spoke about catcalling. So I did say in that episode that I haven't had many experiences, and I especially, like, she was talking about in Lincoln how bad it is there and how often she gets catcalled and everything. She can't go out past like 6 p.m. without being catcalled. And I said that I've never really had that experience in Exeter. It's never been that bad with me. I was catcalled once at 1 a.m. by like someone driving past in a white van. But other than that, in my year that I've been here, I hadn't really had any other experiences that of catcalling, at least, because I feel like if it's catcalling then you do kind of notice. So since then, after publishing that episode and telling everyone Exeter's not that bad, no, it's happened 3 times. So I'll go into like vague detail. The first time, so it kind of spans right from like 2 within like the first week and a half of publishing that episode, which was really annoying. The other one was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago or something. But the first one, I was just on a walk with a friend. It's quite a nice summery day, so we were like, oh, let's go for a walk, daily exercise, you know. So we did, and we were walking past, and then this car drove past, and I think he just whistled, but we both turned around and we were like it took us a second to register what had happened, and we were very confused for a second before we realised that this person had just whistled or shouted or something out of a car. I mean, maybe it wasn't me, but either way, it was at one of the two of us, which just isn't okay. So that was not fun. We got quite angry at that. Me less so, because I'm more used to, like, just as a female, that being a thing. The second time I was by myself, I was walking back from work. I was calling my mum, because I hate walking back from work and to work. I need to, like, talk to someone and have some kind of social interaction. So I was just on the phone to my mum. I was walking across a roundabout, like, safely. And then I heard someone just, like, shouting, and I didn't hear what they said because I was either talking to my mum or listening to what my mum was saying. You know, I was, like, in a different conversation, so I didn't actually hear it. But I, like, turned to look, because you kind of do when there's any kind of commotion. You're like, oh, who's shouting at what? And then this person was just like a passenger in a car, as it was going around the roundabout, was just leaning out the window, staring directly at me. And I was very much like, okay, mum, this person just shouted out their car at me, and I don't know what they would have had to say. Like, I don't think it would have been anything like, oh... I literally have no idea what they could have said that wouldn't have been some kind of catcall thing, because it wasn't like my bag was open or I was dropping things everywhere and they were like, oh, better tell her that. It wasn't that. It was not fun. And then the last time that it's happened since I published that episode was, a couple weeks ago. I was walking to Spoons with a different friend, and these two men were kind of walking in front of us, and then they stood at the side of the pavement, and immediately as they stopped and walked over and started, like, waiting, I was like, oh, this is dodgy, this is not okay. But we kind of walked past them, and this was like 7 p.m, so it was still light, but they were definitely drunk. And then they just kind of started walking behind us again immediately, and I was like, well, for sure, then they just waited for that. And then one of my friends was talking, she made a comment, not about that, she was just telling me a story. And then he made a comment to her, twisted her words in a way that made absolutely no sense to try and, like, make it sexual, which was just ridiculous. So I just, shouted a bit of like, oh, we love public harassment, that's so fun. So those are my 3 experiences since I published that first episode, which has been a month now. Oh, the podcast is a month old. Welcome to the month birthday, everybody. So that's not been great that that's happened a lot more, and I was slightly annoyed that I'd kind of give a decent rep. I was like, yeah, it doesn't really happen here. I don't think any of my friends have really had it happen, and now it's happened a lot more in a very short period of time. So I don't know really what to make of that. Like, is it just a coincidence that's happened a lot? Am I more tuned into it now? Am I noticing it more now? I don't know. But either way, it's been happening more. I still stand by don't catcall people. I think everyone stands by don't catcall people, other than the few undecent humans that do catcall people. But either way, other than that, I don't think there's much to update on any other episodes. I did, on the 3rd episode that I did with Becky, when we spoke about masturbation and kind of being being able to accept it, the way that, like, boys are always taught that it's so natural, and girls, we were kind of all like, oh, didn't know that other people did it, we thought that we were really bad for doing it, oh, shame. So it did kind of come up in a conversation with someone, the concept of it being a form of self-love as well. And I can't remember if we spoke about this massively in depth in that episode, but I thought I'd bring that up as well. Masturbating and getting yourself off and getting yourself a vibrator and everything, it's such a way of accepting your body and learning to love your body, and it's such a confidence thing to, first of all, you need, it can take a lot of confidence to get to that point where you're comfortable with yourself to do that, and it's a massive thing, and you should be proud of yourself if you can get over that and everything, because it can be intimidating being that intimate with yourself and learning to love yourself in that way. But ultimately it's so empowering as well, and it is a complete other form of self-love. And I will talk about it again, and I will, when I'm doing my recommendations, bring it up. But in Florence Given's book, Women Don't Know You're Pretty, everyone should go and read it. Don't know if I've said, my goal is to have her on this podcast one day, so let's make that happen. Tag her in my posts, you know, send it to her, be like, oh, Florence, give this a listen. But either way, in her book, she talks about how everyone with a vagina should go, just buy a hand mirror, have a look at it, just because how often do you look? Do you know what yours looks like? And to be, I still haven't done this, and it, you know, I read it and I was like, well, that is a good point. Like, you don't ever really, the same way that like all guys probably know, not all guys, but you know, many people with a penis will know what their penis looks like. Do we know what our vaginas look like? Or vulva, technically. So the vulva is the outside part. The vagina is actually like the inside bit that the babies come out of, and the periods and that stuff. Most of the icky things. But yeah. So I thought it was really interesting, and just I wanted to reiterate the idea that it is a form of self-love, and it can take a lot of confidence to overcome, but then it can also give you a lot of confidence once you have overcome it, and once you learn to appreciate yourself in this whole new light. But I think that's it in terms of the updates. I don't think there's much else to say. So I will move on to some recommendations, and this is looking like it's going to be a slightly shorter episode because we're only 12 minutes in, but it's fine. Have a short week off. So I have a few recommendations. As I talk about them, I might think of a bit more, but I want to start off with some TV shows because I watched one of them quite recently, and yeah, I just really like it. So the first TV show that I am recommending that you watch is called Mrs. America. I watched this on BBC iPlayer, so if you're listening from the UK, you can watch it there. If you're listening internationally, I think BBC goes international now, so maybe you can watch it there. If not, I'm sure you can stream it somewhere. But anyway, it's a really good show. It's set in like the late 1960s, early 1970s in the women's liberal movement in America, and it's all about kind of the two sides trying to push through or stop being pushed through the ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment. And this is something that I didn't really know a lot about. You know, I'm not American, I'm British, but even so, I think the only real quote-unquote feminist movement, not quote-unquote, but you know what I mean, the only like feminist movement that I've really learnt about or anything is the suffragette movement, the right to women to get the vote in the United Kingdom, in Britain, kind of from 1900s-ish to 1918. So it was really interesting for me to learn about. I loved it. I could not stop watching it. I don't think there's going to be another season because it's a very like one season thing. I have googled it for the historical accuracy. Obviously some things have been dramatized because it is a TV show, but I think a lot of it is also fairly accurate. It's so entertaining, it's so eye-opening if you haven't heard that history of it before, just to like the absolute iconic feminists of that time in the US. And to be honest, it's quite interesting seeing the others, because another thing is you don't really see the other side of it from a woman's perspective much either. The way that, so the people who were pushing against the ERA like coming through were the housewives, and the people who didn't, and they had valid points, you know, they didn't want their children to be drafted into war. Obviously the issue is then, it shouldn't just be you don't want your daughters drafted into war, you shouldn't want your sons drafted either. But it was very interesting because you often just get to see like the men being like, no, we don't want to give the women the rights. You don't often get to see in media or anything, it's not massively talked about, the women who were pushing against the so-called equal rights too. So it's, yeah, the kind of main feminists are, oh, I'm going to forget loads, I'm really sorry. So Gloria Steinem's my favourite. She is one of my, like, icon doesn't sound like the right word, but you know what I mean, like, she is one of my biggest inspirations, idols, that's the word. She's my idol. I adore her so much. And I will talk about her in a minute as well. But so it's kind of like Gloria Steinem, Betty Friedan. I'm going to forget everyone else and I'm going to stop trying. But it's a really good show. I really, really recommend it. I think there's only like 6 episodes. There might be a few more, but definitely less than 10. I think they're half an hour long, but I'm going to stop trying to guess because they could easily be an hour. But either way, it's not a massively long TV show. And it was really interesting. And it made me really emotional. And there's also this line, because I found this just through watching clips on Facebook. They just came up on my Facebook watch, and I was like, well, this looks like a kind of good show. And then I watched a couple more, and then I was like, oh no, I actually really want to watch this now. So I'm not going to remember. I might have to Google this really quickly. But there's this show. No, there's not this show. There's this scene in the show. So this is why I need someone else, because I get very distracted very quickly. Let me go cast. There is this scene with I don't remember her name. I feel like it was Jill. Okay, yeah, Elizabeth Banks' character, Jill Ruckelshaus house. Okay. Oh, there's 9 episodes in the series, so close to 6. Either way, Jill, she was married to, don't remember his name. It doesn't matter. They were both kind of involved. She was heavily involved in like politics. They both were, and the president in America at the time and everything. And he was being run for vice president, I think, and she'd been involved in a lot of like the women's movement. And I think, yeah, anyway. So he had an interview for it or something, and I think they kind of brought her up in the fact that she was very radical, and they were like, oh, you know, she's very outspoken. And I can't remember what his response was, because when he told her this, he was like, I said, you know, you're doing really important things, your voice needs to be heard. Like, something that you hear it and you go, that's, at least me, I was like, that's very supportive. You know, he was letting her be her person. He wasn't being like, yeah, you're right, she needs to quiet down or whatever. But then she comes back with this point, and she says, I just wish you said that I wasn't outspoken. I'm just the right amount of spoken. I'm just as spoken as any man is. And I was like, oh, is that a little bit of internalized misogyny that I had there, or something that I just didn't even realize was an issue? Because she's completely right. She's not outspoken. She is just speaking as much as any man does in politics. So I thought it was a really interesting point, and it kind of was one of those hit me moments where I was like, oh wow, no, this is something else. So yeah, highly recommend that show. Other TV show kind of swings in a different direction is The Bold Type. So this is another American show. It's set in New York. It's about these 3 women, Jane, Kat, and Sutton. Oh my god, I've literally obsessed over this show, and now I'm forgetting everything. So this is a fictional show, but I honestly think it's so important to watch. It's just the most empowering. Like, they talk about all these political things. They talk about empowering women and sex positive and all of this, and it's incredible. And the best part is, because I'm in a couple like groups on Facebook, I like the page, and like, you know, just in that kind of community of people who enjoy the show. And the best part is, and I think this is like a resounding agreement across everyone who likes the show, their friendship is never in jeopardy. It's not like when you watch Pretty Little Lies or anything, when they have little fallouts in their friendship group and they're all like, no, I'm not speaking to you now, and like the core 3, their friendship never wavers. It's never anything that's interrupting their friendship or trying to break them apart. It's always things that happen to either one of them or to the 3 of them, and they all just work through it together, and they have constant, unequivocal, like undying support for each other. And it's just one of the best things to see, because that's never represented in media. Women are always fighting against each other. Like, with the real media, women are always put against each other, and then in fictional media and TV shows and everything, movies, books, you constantly see like this inter-competition, and they all work for the same company, and yes, they're kind of in different departments, but they will never compete against each other, and they're always just there for each other, and they want what's best for their friends, and it's one of the best things to see. season 3, I think, is my favourite season. I just think it's really great. It gives light to a lot of different issues and topics, and it's really hard to find in the UK. I ended up buying some of the seasons on iTunes because you can't, like, it's not on Netflix, it's not on Prime. I think it's on Hulu, so if you have a VPN, you can subscribe to Hulu. But if you can get hold of this, I would highly, highly recommend it. And if you can't watch the whole show, go and follow their Facebook page or find their YouTube or something, because even just watching some clips, I really, really enjoy it, and I love watching the show, and I always come away feeling really positive and really happy and glad and just a little bit empowered, because it really is great. And like, so they all work for this magazine, and the main editor, the chief editor, is a woman, and she's really strong and empowering and everything as well. And it's just nice to see women actually represented in a realistic way. So yeah, those are my TV suggestions. I do think I prefer watching TV to movies, so if you have any, please let me know, because I don't, off the top of my head, I didn't really have any movie recommendations. Obviously there's things like Legally Blonde, but I'm also going to do a kind of another episode on feminism in movies and TV and just media in general, because there is also that kind of thing of, I'll go into it a little bit now, but I'll go into it more in a further episode. Like with Legally Blonde, yes, it's undoubtedly a feminist movie. Like, it's teaching you that you don't have to just be smart or pretty, or, you know, you can choose to look however you want and represent yourself however you want, like in your appearance, and that has it doesn't dictate your intelligence in any way or your capability to do anything. But there's also the thing in Legally Blonde where they just randomly throw in, like, at least in the movie, maybe I'm the only one, Emmett comes out of nowhere. Like, they're friends, you kind of see them interact throughout the movie, and then at the end it's like, oh, she needs a love interest, quick, Emmett's going to propose to her, they're together now, they're together. And they just have no chemistry throughout. In the musical they do it so much better, and you can kind of see them building up the whole time, so I'm not mad about it in the musical. But yeah, in the movie it just seems very weird to me. So like, yes, it's a feminist movie, but it also has a way to go in the way that it does kind of still, to me at least, I watch it and I'm like, it feels like they said she has to have a love interest. She can't end this movie without being with someone. I also think in the movie it says that he's going to propose to her, right? Whereas in the musical, she proposes to him, which, you know, more power to Elle. So yeah, there's stuff like that. Otherwise in movies, I think on Prime this month, there is a Gloria Steinem movie coming out, which I'm very excited for and I do want to watch. I'm going to have to steal someone's Prime for an evening to watch that, because like I said, Gloria Steinem is just one of my idols, and I just adore the work that she's done, and I think that she's great. So talking of, I'm going to recommend some books now, because we love books. So actually, I've only read one of Gloria Steinem's books at the moment, planning on getting more. Money is a problem there. I think my uni library offers a few, so I'll try and read some for free. But, hold on, I'm going to have another drink. I do have one Gloria Steinem book. I just added like all of them to my Amazon wishlist, really, because I just use my Amazon wishlist as a way to keep track of what books I want to read at some point. And then I think I just screenshot that and put it on my story, just as a like, I'm loving Gloria Steinem right now type thing. And then my aunt very kindly bought me one of them, surprised me and sent it in the post. So the one that I've got is The Truth Will Set You Free, but First It Will Piss You Off, which I think is one of her newest ones, if not her newest. And this is a really good one if you're not massively into feminist theory and you haven't really like read a lot or anything, because basically the whole book is just a set of quotes from her, like things that she said, things, and it's also got like from her friends and stuff at the end of every chapter, just a list of quotes from her friends' favourite ones, whatever. So I think it's a really good one to start with, because it really is just that short, snappy thing to then make you kind of have that light bulb moment of, oh, you're right, that is really... So there's a lot of them, and actually, maybe ironically, the one that always stands out to me more than anything else, which isn't actually a quote from Gloria Steinem. She was in a taxi in I think, New York with a friend, and their taxi driver actually said this, and they never managed to trace back who that taxi driver was, so it's kind of anonymous-ish. And Gloria Steinem has been credited with this many times, but she's quite adamant to say, no, I never said this, I repeated it, but I did not originate this. It's actually, if men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament. Which, I mean, like, let that sink in, because it's true. So, that's fun. But yeah, this is a really good book. It's great to just get into it. It's a very quick read because it's all just full of quotes. A lot of the pages are, you know, there's not like many words on a page or anything, so it's quite quick to go through, and it's just some of those things, like very short ideas that you can take on and bring into your own life and make you realise some things. So yeah, really like that one. Definitely want to read more of her stuff. Eventually, when I get time to do that, now that uni's starting, maybe I will do another solo episode, giving you more recommendations, share some recommendations that I might get from you guys to everyone else as well. But I also again, I probably will post a bit more about things like this on the Instagram, just be like, oh, I'm really liking this at the moment. I post a lot of YouTube videos if I think that they're quite relevant and I really like them. I post those on my Instagram stories. I have a highlight for those, so you can always go back and see which YouTube videos I've recommended and stuff like that. So yeah, in terms of other books, I already mentioned Women Don't Know You Pretty. I think it's a life-changing book. It honestly is like my Bible. I don't have it at the moment. A friend's borrowing it and I'm missing it on my shelf and I just miss her. Yeah, it was a life-changing book. I just feel like it changed my perspective on everything, made me realise a lot of things that I need to do in my life to benefit me more, because I'm very much a people pleaser, which is very much not healthy. So it's just, you need to read it. It's also such a good introduction. Like, if you're not massively into, you know, if you haven't read tons and tons of books, which I haven't either, if you don't, you know, you're not clued in, so to say, because the whole point of this podcast is, you know, maybe you can't read the books, or maybe you just haven't got around to it yet, or, you know, this is all just a bit more conversational. So, you know, it's very good. Try and get these books from independent bookstores, but I highly recommend it. Your local library should be doing it. It's like a 13-week new Sunday Times bestseller or something. So if you take anything from this, try and read Women Don't Know You Pretty. If you're one of my friends, you'll feel free to borrow my copy. I will lend it out. I might buy myself another one so I can lend one out and keep one at home. But it's a great book. I've also recently read Black Feminist Thoughts by Patricia Hill Collins, which was really good. As the title kind of suggests, like, it just goes a lot more into the history and the experience of Black women in feminism and how it's a completely different experience, which is eye-opening for me as someone who doesn't experience that. I'm very lucky and I'm very privileged, and I'm trying to use my privilege to, well, not use my privilege, but you know what I mean, like, I've got myself in a tangle of words now. I hope you know what I mean. I'm trying to take away my privilege and help lift up other communities, but also use my privilege to eventually benefit them. Does that make sense? I feel like I've worded that really weirdly, but hopefully you get what I mean. So it was a really interesting read. I read that on my uni library, so if you are a uni student, have a look and see if your uni library has any of these, especially in ebooks, because this was an ebook. So it, you know, obviously it means that then you can read them for free, which is great. In terms of another book as well, I think probably while I'm on the topic of Black Feminist Thought by Patricia Hill Collins, in Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by, is it Renee Edo-Lodge? She does have a chapter on, like, Black feminism versus white feminism and the intersectionality and how white feminists need to be more inclusive in their movement, and, you know, how they can't just exclude this whole community of people. So that was a really interesting chapter as well, and a great read. Whizzed through those books. So I would recommend that. And then also, I haven't read this yet, but it's been on my list forever, and I really want to, and I just bought it for a friend's birthday, so, you know, I'm jealous that she's going to read it before I am. I think it's by Scarlett Curtis, but I think it's attributed to Scarlett Curtis, but it's a collection of a bunch of authors, but it's Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies. It looks like a really interesting read. It's kind of like dismantling myths of feminism and all of that. I will definitely talk about it more once I have got my hands on it and read it. It's one of the ones that, like, I'm trying not to have too many books on my bookshelf because, like, the environment and everything, and also being a uni student, I'm constantly moving from, like, flat to house to flat, you know, to anything. So I'm just trying not to have too many things to have to take with me. But there are a few things that I'm like, oh, but this would be nice on my bookshelf. So I've got the Gloria Steinem one in person. I've got Women Don't Know You Pretty as a physical copy. And I would like Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies as a hard copy, because it would just complete my little bookshelf so perfectly. But yeah, very quickly, because I actually have managed to go on for a little while, I'm just going to talk about some music really quickly. First of all, if you like musicals, listen to Six. It's one of my faves. It's very, very, like, empowering the whole way through. It's kind of, so it's about the wives of Henry VIII. The premise, not to spoil it too much, but the premise is kind of they're having a concert to decide who had the worst experience with Henry. Then at the end, there's a bit of a twist, like, we shouldn't be competing with each other, which you can kind of all tell this if you just listen to the soundtrack. Like, there's not much that happens in the show that isn't the soundtrack, because it's quite short, and it's supposed to just be like a concert, but it's very good. Some of the songs are so empowering. Catherine Parr's is one of my favourites. Like, it makes me cry if I listen to it in the car by myself, because I'm just like, she's such a strong, independent woman. So I really recommend Six. Regular music, because I know not everyone is a musical fan. Demi Lovato has a new song. I don't think it's new anymore, but she had a new song out over lockdown, or at the start of lockdown or something. I think it's called I Love Me, and it's just, if you know anything about Demi Lovato and kind of her journey with mental health and everything, like, she's not had a great time coming to terms with it all, and she's had a very difficult and complicated relationship with herself. So this song is kind of a self-acceptance thing. It's called I Love Me. I can't remember if I said that or if I said it was a different title, but it's called I Love Me. It's really good. I heard it when I was at work, and it did make me emotional, because I was like, oh wow, I relate, I need to love myself. Also, Billie Eilish has a great new song out called My Future. It's all about how she is in love with the version of her that she's yet to become, and she's going to focus on herself and learn more about herself, and I really like that as well. The first time I heard it, it's so vibey as well. Like, even if you don't think about the lyrics, it's just vibey. And then an oldie but a goodie is Taylor Swift's The Man from her Lover album, all just about how her life would be so much easier if she was a man. If you listen to the episode we did a couple weeks ago on sexism with celebrities, you kind of, you know, we talked a lot about Taylor Swift and how she's been treated pretty awfully for things that a man would have just been able to get away with, and how her career has been so much harder for that reason. So that song's kind of all about that, and it's quite empowering, and it's very much like, hell yeah. So those are all of my recommendations, I think. And I'm going to wrap it up there, because my throat is not vibing. I've not had a drink today, I don't think. So, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry I had no guest. It's just me sat alone in my bedroom. Hopefully now that uni has started, well, it's starting like this week, next week. By the time the next episode is out, I actually would have started uni in my second year. Oh, wish me luck. Hopefully I'll be able to stick with this and do the regular weekly episodes. Follow the Instagram for any updates on when the episodes are coming out, and, you know, quite often I asked the other day if anyone had any recommendations for episode ideas, or, you know, I ask a lot of things, and like I said, I do like the YouTube recommendations every so often, and it's a fun time. It's a nice community, so go follow the Instagram. Again, it is @theaveragefempod. You can email us if you have a question. It's theaveragefeministpodcast@gmail.com. Is that everything? Oh, leave us a review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. So I think that's everything. So I will see you next week. Hopefully I'll have a guest with me that time. Have a really nice week. And just as a short reminder, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So please don't gather in a group of larger than 6 people if you're in the UK, because that is our new rule. Don't get well, I mean, you can't help if you get coronavirus sometimes, but, you know, act in as safe a way as possible to help you stop getting coronavirus. Wear a mask. Stay in your bedroom, I guess. Have a nice week.